I think we are live. Hello, everybody. Good evening. This is the Atomic Self-Love Project on Spiritual Events Directory. Tonight, we are covering the 5 catastrophic effects of a toxic relationship. And some of you are viewing this straight in Spiritual Events Directory, and some of you are viewing this on the page called Grace Harris Transformational Coach. Welcome. Tonight is a very important night because it's a subject that I've never really directly spoken about except in my book. So this book, Become the Woman of Your Dreams, may as well have been called Toxic because it is the story of my own personal journey to healing. And so I welcome all of you, and usually I encourage everyone to say hi and let me know where you're hailing from. I'm Grace Harris. I'm going to be in this conversation with you tonight. And I hail from the northern New South Wales in Terranora, which is the border of Queensland and New South Wales. And I have Carrie. Hello, welcome again tonight. Good to see you here. Dusty. Namaste from Australia. So Jules, hello. Angela from Melbourne. Charmaine from New Zealand, welcome back. And I want to get started by just asking you guys a question, and if you can participate in the chat. So it's a question answerable by either yes, no, or I'm not sure. So type in the chat if you feel that you have been in a toxic relationship in the past, or are you're in a toxic relationship now you feel, and type in yes. And if you feel that you've never been in one, type in no. And if you're not sure if you are or not in a, if you're feeling neither empowered nor disempowered in your relationship, type in I'm not sure. And it's okay if you don't want to participate, if you don't want to type in. But I just want to get a feel of, what is the collective here tonight? Because I know that there's been quite a bit of a reaction about the title of this talk. And why not? Because I tell you, toxic relationships are everywhere. In plain English, it is, you know, any kind of relationship that is made up of one or two, or usually two or more parties that manipulate, victimize, vilify, use, confuse, and damage one another intentionally as well as unintentionally. This can be a professional relationship, such as employee, employer, client, consultant, etc., or it can also be personal relationships such as husband, wife, partner to partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, between friends, between neighbors, mother, daughter, father, son, father, daughter, etc. The list goes on. And the nature of toxicity in a relationship is that most of it is unintentional, most of it is unaware. But because this is the Spiritual Events Directory, and as the creator of the Atomic Self-Love Project, tonight I want to focus on a particular type of toxic relationship, which is the male female, which is the husband and wife, partner to partner, or female to female, which is partner to partner, or male to male. So as long as you're in a romantic relationship, it's going to bleed over to previous histories that you may have had of toxic relationships that you've had with your parents, with your sisters, with your siblings, relationships that have influenced the way that you look at relationships right now or relationships in the future, because it's never an exclusive toxicity in just your marriage, right? It's never an exclusive toxicity in just your romantic partnership. There is always a history behind it. But for the purpose of how can you heal from these 5 catastrophic effects of toxic relationships, we're going to try and keep it in a container that's really concerning partner to partner, but whether that's male to female, female to female, or male to male, as long as there is a romantic aspect in that relationship. So I'm going to look at the chat as to what is the collective energy here tonight, whether you have said yes, you were or are in a toxic relationship. No, you've never been, or you're not sure because you're feeling neither empowered nor disempowered in your current relationship, which is sometimes, it can be worse than being there or not there, because it's just like it's limbo. Like, where is the growth? You don't know the direction, but we're going to dive deep into that later on. So I've got some reactions. I've got Sonia, yes, 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 so many times. Yes, I have repeated a few times as well. So join the club there, Sonia. Charmaine, yes. Madeline, still am, and I need to know where it's going at the moment. That is a question that is really, important to ask yourself, isn't it? Carrie, yes. Jessica, yes. Jody, yes. Charmaine, I'm not sure. I don't know. Yep, that's fair enough. Dusty, yes, yes. Angela, yes, yes. Am I getting a no at all? Madeline, yes, and still am. Janet, yes. Jules, yes. Yep. So it's 99% yes. And I think that that's very brave of you guys. So just to be able to see that for what it is. But the painful thing about seeing it for what it is we get stuck there because it's so painful to try and tackle. It's painful enough to go through the everyday life of a toxic relationship, let alone try and be futuristic and fix this broken heart and fix our screwed up belief systems so that we can look forward to a shiny, beautiful, loving future, which we so rightly deserve. The reason that way we are born here is so that we can shed light. We were born with light, and our purpose is to shed light. The caveat that we've never been told is that for you to finally shed your light and really show your purpose, you've got to go through these experiences. And the thing about these experiences, when we immerse ourselves so much, we get drowned in that experience of toxicity, and we can't get out. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly cover just again what is a toxic relationship briefly, because there is such a big description of an actual dynamics of a toxic relationship. And then I'm going to go into the 5 catastrophic effects, and I'm going to you will have to allow me to tell stories here, because as that's what I do. I write books and I tell stories, and that's how I work with my clients as well, is we go into their experiences. I allow them to tell me their stories, because the stories is where you get the truth from. If it's one thing for you to say to me you are in a toxic relationship, but let's go into the details. Let's go into the dynamics of it, because you may or may not know that in that toxic relationship, are you the toxic one, or is he the toxic one, or are both of you dancing in the different roles in different times? Are you toxic today and tomorrow not, and then vice versa? It could be there's a codependency there, and it's not always a one-way dance. It takes two to tango, right? So um so Charmaine says toxic friendships. Yeah, that's okay, Charmaine. So toxic friendships are also very painful. I must say, like they can be just as painful as romantic, especially if it's a best friend. Sometimes you wonder, why did you have a falling out after all these years? I know a couple of friends of mine. One of them, she was telling me not long ago that she had this friendship, 34-year friendship with another girl, just a best friend kind of friendship. But life happens, and this friend had developed some kind of injury and illness that's really quite serious, and of course it's going to get you down. And because of the context of that, we develop fears and we act upon our fears, and then it rubs off on the other one, and then the next thing, both of you are acting upon fear. And so you display behaviors that are sometimes can be perceived as narcissism, just looking after yourself and not the other person. And pain and betrayal can be felt. But did you know, if you listen to both stories, mostly they are not intentional things. So it's so important to go deep into the topic of toxic relationships per se. But tonight I just thought I'd get started with just the 5 catastrophic effects. Let's just get started there, because it's such a deep topic. So is it toxic or emotional immaturity, like the inability to grow any further? Beautiful question there, Beck. I'll get you to hold on to that thought. And so for those of you who have just jumped on, I define toxic relationship to be simply as any kind of relationship with two or more parties that manipulate, victimize, vilify, use, confuse, and damage one another intentionally or unintentionally, And this can be a professional relationship or personal relationships that can be so varied, like husband, wife, partner, friendships, father, son, mother, daughter. But for the purpose of tonight's discussion, it's going to be revolving around romantic relationships, male to female, female to female, male to male. So let's get into the 5 catastrophic effects of a toxic relationship. And if this is something, I'd love for you to participate. And again, this is, I love participation. And one day we're going to have a two-way kind of dialogue, because this is usually just you type in your response, and it takes me 5 to 10 seconds to see it. But please participate with me. If a catastrophic effect resonates with you, or something that has happened to you, type in the chat, yes, that has happened to me, because it allows us to, when we are vulnerable, we collect courage, because people will resonate with you. And the number one thing that a toxic relationship can do to you is it will shut your heart down. It will close you down like nothing. You become, at first, it's something that you don't really notice. You just become just a little bit more guarded. You become just a little bit more cynical. Someone says something, and you kind of like start to take things always with a grain of salt, even when that person who's telling you something is someone that you've known for a long time, and someone that you've always trusted. You find yourself just a little bit more guarded each and every day. And then ultimately, when you're in a toxic relationship and you're in there month in, month out, year in, year out, and you break up with a toxic person, a narcissist person, and then you're in another one again, so you're repeating the cycle, you're probably in your second or third one, the next thing that happens, it shuts your heart down so much that you don't only lose trust with other people. You don't only become cynical with what other people are saying, but you lose trust ultimately, and very, very tragically, in yourself. You shut your heart down on yourself. Like you just begin to lose the feeling of joy, to lose the feeling of excitement, to lose the feeling of hope. The sun rises, and where it usually excites you because it's so sunny, you just like, the rain pours, and where it usually excites you because the plants are going to get, watered, or that you love this kind of weather because it's a cuddle weather, and you're just like, it shuts your heart down. Anyone here who's got their heart shut down from a toxic relationship? Like you just someone who, I remember when I was when I was still married a long, long time ago. And I have to tell you this, I'm divorced from my husband. I'm now partnered lovingly, but with my ex-husband. I have to say that, we're divorced for a long time now. But in that marriage that I had, I was dancing between, the victim, and sometimes I was the one victim. We were both toxic in the relationship that created a legitimately toxic kind of partnership. We were both, and I truly believe that we did the best that we could, both of us. And my ex-husband and I, we speak today about the kids, about how he is, if we how we can help one another for the purpose of the children. But the reason that I'm going to tell you stories like this is to illustrate. So there, I remember when I was married, and I was in such a heart shutdown mode, that we went to this vegetable shop, and we were buying vegetables, and we were on the counter paying for what we were buying. This is me and my ex-husband. At the time, I was pregnant with my first child. I didn't have a child yet, so I was very young, I was very vulnerable, I was feeling disempowered, I was feeling victimized, I was hurting a lot. And so we were buying vegetables. We were going to pay. The lady before us that was going to pay, that was in the queue before us, she looked like she was a single mom, because she had a little toddler in the trolley, and she felt really her vibration felt really stressed out, like she was in a hurry. She was worried, she was frantic. And so she had this frantic energy, and she was paying, and then she grabbed everything and ran out to the car park. And so that was it. And then it was our turn. We were paying. And then the next thing, we went home and we were unloading our fruit and vegetable. And there was this plastic bag that didn't belong to us. It had like avocados, it had some yummy vegetables in it. And I looked at it and I'm like, that's not that I didn't get this. I didn't. And then my ex-husband looked at it and said, and he said, oh, that must have been that woman's before us. That's her vegetables. The poor thing, like she needs that. Like he was so empathetic to her, you know. And I just looked at the vegetables and I looked at my husband at the time and I looked again and back to him and nothing. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel, you know, my heart was so shut down because I was in so much pain. And I look back at that young woman now and I give her so much love because I just feel how much she's missing, how much she was missing out because her heart was so shut down. You know, you gotta love the younger you because when you heal now, you are also healing your past. And I think of her and I go back in time and I send her loving words so that if ever that incident can be repeated in a different timeline, in a different dimension, then she would feel for that woman who's left her fruit and vegetables with the yummy avocados. And so it shuts your heart down and it's catastrophic because when you shut your heart down, nothing, everything is gray. Whatever happens to you, even if you I don't know, have some a promotion tomorrow at work or someone tell you how beautiful you are, it's not going to sink in. You just like have this like plastic around you that's just like it's rubbery. It's always it's bouncing. Every loving word is bouncing. Everything. It's a protective mechanism. But the sad thing about it is that it protects you from pain, but it also disengages you from all the love, and especially from yourself. You lose yourself. And it's and that was a catastrophe for me. So let me know. So Kate says, I just got out of a toxic relationship 2 weeks ago. I'm starting to recover slowly. It's like trying to pick myself up off the floor. My heart is very close, that's for sure. Beck says the shield. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's like the shield. It's like an unseen shield. Now, the second catastrophic effect, and this one, sometimes I'm not sure if it's worse than shutting your heart down, but it is absolutely very, very, very dangerous. It's so dangerous, you know, and what it does, toxic relationships. The second catastrophic effect is it poisons your mind. It poisons your mind. You know, I believe that we are born as a blank canvas. We are born pure. We are born, you know, just light, and we are born to receive. And as babies, we receive everything. First, the love of the parents or the vibration of the environment. Obviously, I mean, if there's no love there, then you won't feel that. But we are such sponges and blank canvases when we are babies that we can literally absorb anything. And the thing that happens to us is that we don't just wake up at age 24 and go, oh, I'm going to have a relationship with someone who's toxic or someone who's a narcissist. It doesn't happen that way. There are incidents when you were a child, usually at the formative age from 2 until the age of 8 years old, 9 years old, when you have formed certain belief systems that allowed you to have a mental model of what a relationship should be or shouldn't be unconsciously. Here's the thing, everything that we learn, that we need to learn, we will learn from age 2 to 8. But the thing about that is we are unconsciously absorbing everything. And so therefore, the model behaviors that we think about a relationship, we don't even think consciously that we think love should be like this, that we believe love should have cuddles, or that we understand that love is respectful. We don't even really consciously sit down and tell ourselves, hey, this is what I believe love should be. We don't. We just go into adult life. And so therefore, if we have learned some really painful experiences, such as myself when I was 5 years old, and And I have to say, my mother did her best, and I respect her for her decision. And I'm really, really grateful for what she did to me, even though it was so painful that it almost killed me. I'm grateful because if not for what she's done to me, I wouldn't be who I am today. But the story goes like this. I was 5 years old, and I've written that in my book if you're curious. And she says to me, "Get dressed, we're going to go and visit your grandmother." And I was so jazzed, excited. I wore my one and only going out dress. It was blue because I thought we were going to, visit and stuff like that. So we went there. But the first thing that she said to me when we got there is that, "You stay here. I'm going to come back this afternoon to come and fetch you." And so, because she said that, then I happily went with my day, seeing my relatives and visiting, as I thought we were, my grandmother. But in the afternoon, I started to wait for my mother outside my grandmother's house, and I was watching all these public utility vehicles come through the street, thinking that one of them will have my mom in it. And I remember being so excited every time one of them passed by. I'm like, "That's my mama, that's my mama." And when it passed by and she wasn't in there, I would be like, "Oh." And then I would have this little hope again, go, "Oh, the next one she'll be in there." And then I'll be like, "Oh, there's the next one, there's the next one. It's gonna be my mama." And then it's not. And then after about 20 tricycles, 20 public utility vehicles, I look up to the sky, and the color of the sky had turned from bright blue to dark gray. And there was a moment when I looked up to that sky that I realized that she was never coming back, not like she said she would. And this was the moment when my heart started to shut down. It shut down, and because it did, it started to grow that shield, as Beck was saying here. And as I was abandoned in that house, I was exposed to all sorts of different types of abuse and a lot of neglect. And and because of these experiences, they were the only experiences that I had. You see, I didn't have polarities. I didn't have good and bad. I just had bad, 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 bad. And so for me, that was normal. And therefore, the model of the relationships that I had was the ones that I grew up with. People fighting all the time. One of my relatives, they shot one another or something with a gun. Just like always bickering behind each other's backs. So that was, to me, it was like everyday life. And I didn't know that I've absorbed all of that and carried them to be my models of relationships, so that when I turned 24 and met my future husband, I started my own cycle of toxic relationships. And so the second catastrophic effects of toxic relationships is it poisons your mind. It really does. And the poisonous effect, that the symptoms of your mind being poisoned, is that it really can trigger mental health situations. If you notice that you're easily triggered, you're easily anxious, like you can't handle people, you are someone who's always paranoid. You just have no sense of what can be trusted, it's just, and to the point of you can be suicidal. I I will be totally vulnerable with you here, because this is a journey that I've already healed from, and I'm grateful for all of it. But there was a point in my marriage when I did try to take my own life. And it's because my mind was so, it was just so black in there, right? It was so dark. It was just something that I just could not see. It was like this black heavy drape curtain. And I speak to many women now that, at some point in their life, they would have put themselves in front of cars because they can't see tomorrow. It's just so much easier to do this now. And if you're someone listening to this now, my heart goes out to you, and there is so much love for you. I feel love for you even if I don't know you. It's because I have experienced a full circle of it. And if your mind is in a poison state right now because of a catastrophic effect of a toxic relationship, hang in there, hang in there. There is light. We're going to discuss the how to heal side of things at the end of this video. And uh So Tina says, yeah, my mind is still poisoned. Yeah, that's very vulnerable and courageous of you, Tina, to say so. Thank you for being open. Beck says, big love, beautiful soul, nurture yourself moment by moment for sure. Yeah, thank you. And Beck, hyper vigilant to the max. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's like that self-awareness, and we're going to go deep dive into that. The third catastrophic effect. And of there's I want to tell you too, there are so many catastrophic effects. It's not just five, but there are the top five that are really the reason I picked this top five is because it destroys not just your life, but the lives of others, especially if you have children. You know, these are things that we really need to watch out for, because more often than not, it's just not ourselves but other people as well. And the third one is it weakens your immune system, and that is putting it mildly. Toxic relationship catastrophically weakens your immune system, you know. So have you ever noticed, who here noticed, so it's for the people, for the ladies who have so vulnerably and courageously admitted that they are in a toxic relationship, who here had found that they had, you know, it's weakened their immune system. You're always feeling unwell, injuries that you don't even know where they come from, and you're always calling in sick to work. You're just not feeling 100%, and even illnesses that are so mysterious. And yeah, and you wonder what's happening with your body. It's because your body is literally absorbing all that negative energy. And we are that's at if we are anything, we are simply energies. We are made of energy. You know, like some when you actually see, when you can see a body that's say half alive, say a body that's on comatose. So there is not a lot of energy there, because it's not being it can't be fed by anything, but the energy doesn't go through anymore because of the illness that's in that body. So the more toxic the relationship, the more it blocks all that good energy, and or this just this stuckness in there. And the stuckness of that dark energy makes you sick. I know when I was in I think it was a relationship that I had straight after my marriage. I had all sorts of different things. I had a broken shoulder, and this doctor said to me, "You broke that shoulder from a what did he say? From a major impact caused by sports." And I said to him, with all due respect, doctor, I don't play sports. So how could I have had this injury? I've had to have an operation before. And then he said, well, if you don't play sports, I don't know. But the injury is only possible by high impact because the shoulder had broken. And I don't play sports. So where could that have come from? And even back when I was in another toxic one, I think this was one in my marriage before, just like things growing in my body, like lumps and cysts and whatnot. And so there are, and I know you know this, you feel it in your body. And sometimes it can be just as simple as you're always getting the cold. You can never seem to get over a certain cough. You know, you want to always have an exercise regime, but you can't ever put your mind into it, even just to tie your running shoes, for crying out loud. It's so hard. It's because the energy is so heavy and so dense that there is no lightness in it, and it causes your immune system to weaken. Catastrophic, catastrophic, because if it keeps going like that, then it's gonna just, your body can only take so much. Yeah, it can only handle so much. And so please yeah, just be very mindful. Kate says, I was exhausted all the time and I put on a lot of weight, low iron and thyroid issues. Yes. Yeah, very interesting. Kate, I had a right thyroidectomy when I was in my when I was still married a long time ago, and yeah, it was, yeah. So there is just it's just very very prevalent, and what I've noticed in many of the people that I speak to is that I'm not feeling well. I don't really understand. I've had the yoga this morning, and I've had I've had the diet that I was meant to do, but I just did not find the time and the energy to go out for a brisk walk, or to look after my body and to just be respectful of my body to start with. And so, ladies, your body is divine, our bodies are divine, and so let's honor it. And so, yeah. Now the fourth catastrophic effect of a toxic relationship is, this is like a almost like a hush hush taboo, kind of nobody wants to talk about it, effect of a toxic relationship. And it is so painful, because one of the reasons why we are always finding ourselves at one point or another, or maybe even constantly in toxic relationships, is because no one is brave enough to talk about it. I mean, we are not, because we are afraid, we are in fear, but even the people that care about us, they don't know how to open it up. And it's not their fault, right? That's why it's important that we develop the awareness first of all, that we become brave first of all. It's one thing said, but it's different, it's easier said than done, and we're going to go into that later on. But the fourth catastrophic effect of a toxic relationship is isolation or alienation from your family and friends. Have you ever had a relationship where, for some reason, you just always find yourself making excuses to yourself and to your friends and to your family, whether that's on text message, on the phone, or an email, why you cannot be on that gathering, why you can't make it to dinner, why you can't attend a coffee with your mom, or and there's so many reasons. And one of the major reasons is that you know that they're going to ask you how it's going in the relationship, like how's so and so going, or how's your, let's just say, I don't know, Rodrigo. Sorry if there's a Rodrigo here, there's nothing personal. Just trying to pick a name that's as unique as I can think of, just so you know that I'm not, uh, singling someone out. But let's just say your man is named Rodrigo, and then mom would say, mom would say, or best friend would say, how's Rodrigo, how's the relationship with Rodrigo going, or how is it going with him? And you know that you just can't look them in the eye, because if you do dare to look them in the eye and try to tell them how it's going, it's either you're going to break down into small pieces and into tears, or you're going to lie to them. And either one is just as bad. And so you'd rather not do either one. And so you'd create an excuse to say, no, I'm not going to be able to make it because of X, Y, Z. When normally, if not for this relationship, you would be so excited to go and have a gas bag, go and have a good old yap with the girls, So it's the isolation and the alienation. And it's that constant and unconscious nagging at the back of your mind that I don't want them to think that I've failed in the relationship, or I don't want them to see my bruises if you're being physically abused, or I don't want them to see that I'm not happy, because this is, it could be that you have some kind of a belief system that this relationship is the perfect relationship because you have a house, he has a good job, you've got the frills and benefits, but deep inside you are not being validated in who you really are and what your desires are. And so you are a closet toxic relationship victim, but you'd rather keep it to yourself because you're trying to put up a front for a perfect relationship in front of other people. And I'm not saying you are to blame and this and this and that. Like, I mean, like I'm saying here, I was I was a serial party to toxic relationships. But these are very simple signs that you are starting to isolate yourself, you're starting to alienate yourself, because as a result of the toxic relationship. And sometimes you don't even know why. Sometimes you don't really know why you are not telling anyone about it. I remember when I was in a corporate job for a long time, like we're talking a whole decade, I never once I never once said to anyone, and the closest people to me were the people that I work with, because I worked there for 5 days a week, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so I was always with them, and they were really, really good people. They cared about me genuinely and sincerely, and it's vice versa. And so they gave me love and support more than my family when I was a child ever gave to me. And so that's how I started to learn what it really looks like to be supported and loved. And because these people at work were so loving and supportive to me, I had this I had this unconscious belief that I don't want to screw it up. I don't want to put mud on this pure supportive environment by dumping on them. I don't want to say to them that I'm just so confused in my relationship, that, well, I don't understand why, for the life of me, whatever I do, everything just falls apart. So I never said anything for a long time. And you know what I realize now when I look back to that is that they knew anyway. They knew anyway. Like, all they were waiting for was for me to open up and to let them know that I need them. See, the thing is, and the thing was, I came across as very independent and very capable. Like, when it comes to my job, I was really good at it, and I could do whatever I wanted. My children, we traveled the world together. When it comes to the logistics of life, I could do whatever I want. And so for my loving and supportive colleagues, they weren't sure that I needed and wanted their help. They knew the whole time that my relationship was toxic, but they were waiting for me to reach out, and I didn't do that. I didn't even know why, but I alienated and isolated. Is this you? Just let me know that I'm not, I'm not just talking here to the air, because I know that this happens to a lot of capable women. I speak to like lawyers and even CEOs of their businesses, and they it's almost like living a double life. Like, you're such a go-getter kind of woman, and then you're back home, you crumble. It's like you're a closeted victim of a toxic relationship. And my heart goes out to you. Belinda is raising her hand. You know what I'm talking about, Belinda. Like, you are so, it's like what I call an imposter syndrome that I went through for a long time, because I'm, even to myself, like, I would look at the mirror sometimes. I remember thinking, because one of my friends, I remember, she said to me, why don't you just do your romantic life like you do your work life? Like, you're so good at work life, why don't you apply what you do there in your romantic life? And I was like, and I thought about it, looked at myself in the mirror, I'm thinking, oh, why can't I just do that? How is it that I could be so organized in one area, and the other area, which is happens to be the most important thing for me, which is the love and the relationships, and for the life of me, I couldn't get it right? It's because going back to the inner child, going back to the belief systems, going back to the experiences that are unhealed, going back to, the memories that have stayed with us, that broke our hearts, shut us down, and poisoned our mind. Now, let me know here, give me a yes if you are someone who wants to heal from the past so you can heal your present and live a beautiful future. Who here wants that? Say, type in the chat and the word heal, HEAL. Let's heal together if you are ready for that. So Kate says, yep, lost all my friends and family in the process. Yeah, that's I lost Barbara White says yes, Amanda says yes, Dusty yes, Kate yes, heal, yes, let's heal, Charmaine heal. And healing is a committed process, and so I'm glad that you ladies are in the space of wanting to go back and heal. It's the reason why we are still not healed, is because it's not easy. you know I remember when I was writing this book, took me 23 months. And at the beginning, I thought to myself, because I've been a writer for a long time, like for school writers and whatnot. But when I planned to write this book, I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna write a book. It's so good. I know the stories. I remember everything. I'll sit down, write it down. But No one actually told me that when you write a memoir, you're going to go through a healing process. And what happened was that I started to not only write the things that I remember, but it put me in a such a deep state of nostalgia and remembering that I started to recall things that my psyche, had purposely buried and not remember because they were too painful. So I had to go through that. And I remember days when I just wanted to curl up in a corner and hide from the world because it was just so painful and so confronting. And let alone to put in a book to be published to the world, right? So it's a hard thing to do, but it's easy when you are doing it with other people who understand you, other people who are in the same journey as you are. You don't have to do this alone. That's the thing. And that's what that's what I'm passionate about, is that because I felt like I did it alone, except that I had some companions. I had Oprah Winfrey on Super Soul Sunday, Wayne Dyer, and all these mentors that don't even know that I exist. Yeah, so isolation is definitely one of the easiest thing. Isolation and alienation is one of the easiest thing to address when you're in a toxic relationship, because what happens is once you identify a group, a community that's there to support you because they're in a similar journey, bang, you've addressed the isolation and alienation. You start to gain people that you can trust, and you can be friends with these people as well. So it's just a specified special group to support you, and this is potentially the community for you. So Belinda says, so Dusty, I'm technically not a lady. That's fine. So Belinda says, yes, I have been trying for 5 years of healing. Got out of a 22-year domestic violence relationship. Wow, congratulations. That's amazing, amazing. And I want to say to you, Belinda, that every day is a day of healing. So take every day as it comes. And 5 years of healing is just divine. Like, congratulate yourself every day. It's so easy to forget how great we are at at recovery, and how resilient we have become, because the days just roll. But I encourage you tonight to sit down and have that quiet time and just say, I'm amazing. I really, really am amazing. So, yeah, that's for you, Belinda. So, the fifth um, and the worst thing, I believe, is, well, short of actually dying, the fifth catastrophic effect, and this is the bottom line of toxic relationship. The fifth catastrophic effect of a toxic relationship is that if you don't do anything about it now, you will do it again and again and again and again and again. If you don't make a decision now that this stops from today, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to go through the pain of healing myself, it doesn't even matter, I'm just going to focus on me, and I'm going to put a stop to this cycle. you know I want to be very clear here that I'm not saying you're gonna break up with a person, you're gonna stop a toxic person, or this and that. You're gonna stop the cycle. I don't care what sort of color, what angle, what shape of a toxic relationship. There's so many out there that you've had or currently in. I am interested in your future, the cycle, breaking down why in the first place you got attracted to it, and in the second place why we stay in it, and finally how we can break that cycle. Because even if if I told you today, go break up with someone, or don't break up with someone, just give it another try, whatever I say doesn't matter if you haven't fully healed, because even if you dump someone, you're gonna move on just to exactly the same thing again. I mean, probably different flavors, but it's still a toxic type, in a way that it's going to suck the life out of you, shut your heart down, poison your mind, alienate yourself from the people that truly, truly love you. So that is, the saddest and the most catastrophic thing of all is that it's going to happen again. And I know that it took me, when it comes to romantic partnerships, it took me three, oh no, four actually, and it's all in this book. You want to find out about all my toxic cycles, you will read that in the book, and it's available in the in Amazon as an ebook or a paperback. But yeah, so this is not just this, it covers the original one that I had, how I formed my belief systems about relationships, and and the four romantic partnerships that are, maybe only three, I'm not sure. No, there's four, but three toxic ones, and the fourth one is the love of my life. So I there's a fourth toxic one that didn't make it into the book, because otherwise it would have been like 180,000 words. So those are the five catastrophic. And when I say catastrophic, if you don't address them, it's going to really derail you from life itself, which means ultimately that it's going to, if you're not going to experience a near death experience, it's slowly killing your spirit, and it's just, you're just living a life that's slowly killing you. You're dying inside. And you wonder why sometimes we, have you ever met a person, and they say all the right words and they answer your questions, but their eyes are dead? For some reason they're looking through at you, but they're not really seeing you, and they just have this aura, this vibe that they're not there, that they're just not there. But if you ask them a question and if you talk to them, they will say the right answers and they will intellectually address your conversation, but they're not there. It's because it's just the brain that's operating, but the spirit and the love and the heart is all shut down, and it's a slow death, and it's catastrophic. So let's so what we're going to do in order to heal is that I want to show you something. I'm a bit of a bookworm, and I just and I'm going to base it just to make it really digestible. So this is a book. So I live on the northern New South Wales, and I went to this antique shop with antique things like plates and jugs and books, and I found this antique book, The World as I See It, Albert Einstein. This is a book that Albert Einstein wrote before he was known as Albert Einstein. And there is a little note from the previous owner here at the front, if you can see that. That's the name of the last owner, and I can't really read the name, but the date was the 29th of March, 1954. So let's just say that in 1954, this book had been in circulation for 10 years. Therefore, it had been around since 1945, which makes it that this book is about 70 to 80 years old, and it's not being printed anymore. So technically, it's an antique, valuable book, and I bought it for $10. And I started to read it because I'm so curious. What's Albert Einstein thinking in 1945, before he was well known to be one of the people that's got the deepest wisdom in the world, and before the theory of relativity was even famous? And so I start to flip through the pages, and I'm not going to read the whole book, don't worry, but there is on the page 7 here, and the bottom line. So I don't know if you can see the true value of a human being. That's how it starts, and I'm going to read it. It's just a quick sentence. So he says, the true value of a human being is determined primarily by the measure and the sense in which he has attained to liberation from the self. I'll read it one more time. The true value of a human being is determined primarily by the measure and the sense in which he has attained to liberation from the self. And so when I read that, I was just like, my jaw dropped to the floor, because it is what every spiritual mentor in essence have been teaching me. Wherever I look, self-awareness is the most fundamental tool that we can develop so that we can start to heal our life. I remember one of my greatest mentors is Eckhart Tolle, and in the first part of his book, The Power of Now, he tells the story when he had his spiritual awakening, and it was a time in his apartment when he was in so much emotional and mental pain that he had been saying to himself, I cannot live with myself anymore. I cannot live with myself anymore. He kept repeating it, and then he had this moment when he had the accurate awareness to say, so if I cannot live with myself, then who am I and who is the self? So finally his awareness had split from the self, and that's what it is. The self and the awareness are two different things, and this is the fundamental key to our healing. There is a deep process, but I just want to start with this, is that the self is what we identify with and who we identify as. So what we identify with is that we identify with our cars, with our houses, with our profession, with our titles, PhD, MD, whatsoever, and who we identify as. We're a nurse, we're a doctor, we're a mother, I don't know, we're tall, we're short, we're skinny, we're fat, we're brown, we're white, whatever. So that's the self, that's the form that we can see and touch. But the awareness is the one that observes and does not change. And the problem that we've created is that as we grow up, we've operated from the self, and the awareness had faded away when the awareness is the most powerful thing, right? So I'll give you a very, very, very quick 60-second exercise. Is if you close your eyes and I say to you, take a deep breath and hold in your mind the image of a chocolate cake. It's warm, it's freshly baked, it's delicious, it's oozing with fudge on top. Now hold it in your mind at the center where your eyebrows meet. Hold it for 1, 2, 3. Are you holding? Okay, warm chocolate cake. Now, in the count of three, I'll need you to let it go. 1, 2, 3. Let it go. No more cake, blank. So you can, and then you can choose. And then the next thing, you choose what you want to put in your mind. If you want to choose a tall, dark, and handsome husband, put it there, hold it in your mind. But when you realize that this tall, dark, and handsome man is not the be all and end all of your happiness, let it go. Choose a different thought. If you want to choose a thought where a man is holding you tight in his arms and saying to you, you deserve everything and I accept you for who you are, hold that in your thought and keep that if that's what you want. You have the awareness, you have the power. And I was really, really amazed when I read that in 1940s or something, Albert Einstein was writing that in different types of words, but liberation from the self-awareness. And so my gift to you, and the announcement that I wanted to do, because this is not a healing or breaking the cycle of a toxic relationship is not a fast food drive through, wham bam, thank you ma'am, I'm fixed, I'm healed, thank you very much for coming now. It doesn't work that way. As I said, it takes number one, decision, and then the commitment, and then you have to have the community. You have to have the people that understand you and are there for you. So I'm running a free 5-day break the cycle of toxic relationships challenge on the 19th of April, which is the Monday week, not tomorrow, but Monday week. So I'm going to post in the chat right now. I invite you to join me in this private Facebook group where I'm going to go live for 5 days with guest speakers about breaking the cycle of toxic relationships. And it's a challenge because every day I'm going to be posting a challenge to you to support yourself and support one another, to do a simple activity in the group that's going to give you the result, immediate result on that day, on that hour, to help you empower yourself and heal your life. So who's in with me on a free 5-day break the cycle of toxic relationships challenge where you can get some fast results? Give me a yes on the chat so that I can post the link to the actual Facebook group, and all you've got to do is join, and then I'll be posting some content before the actual start, which is the 19th of April, so that we can engage, we can get to know one another, and then we start on the 19th of April. So who wants in? I'm going to post the actual link to the 5 day free Break the Cycle of Toxic Relationships challenge starting on the 19th of April through to the 23rd. So, and that is this link here. So, all you've got to do is join, and then voila. So, Jessica says yes. Charmaine says yes. Belinda says yes. Tracy, yes. Let's do this, ladies. So the here is the link to the private Facebook group for the 5 day free Break the Cycle of Toxic Relationships challenge. I am so looking forward to see you there, because you know, the more that you have fast results, the more that you can see your potential. And when you see your potential, and not only yours, but the potential of others and the experiences of others, and how the style that they're addressing that kind of toxicity, and the way that they perceive themselves and other people. And it's just this dynamic of, wow, I'm not alone in this. Yes, that's happened to me too. Or far out, really? Like, how long have I been living in a cave for? I'll tell you a story for those of you who are still thinking about joining this challenge. I'll tell you a story. And well, if you read my book, it's in the book, but I like to tell the story. So in August 2013, and I was in such a dark place because I was suffering from glandular fever. So was my daughter, and my son was fine, so I drove my son to his dad, and so that I can just look after myself and my daughter, who were just like, I don't know if you've had glandular fever, but like, you can't move, you can't eat, you can't do nothing. You're just in bed, and then you get back up, you get up only to have an energy for 30 minutes, and you have to be down again. It's just, and there's no cure for it. You've got to wait to just get better. And so we were suffering from glandular fever, and I heard that a very close family back home in the Philippines was on stage 3 breast cancer. My heart sank. My heart sank because I've lost a few loved ones through breast cancer, and this was such a scary, scary threat. So I was just like, oh my God, what's going on, right? So and then at the time, my the person that I was romantically I don't know, romantically in I feel it. I can't even say my ex-boyfriend, but yeah, it was my ex-boyfriend. It was a toxic relationship, but at the time he had been pressuring me to allow him to live with me in the same house for like, I don't know, 2 years. And every time he asked me or pressured me, I would say no. And every time I would say no, he would abuse me verbally, and he would call me names and accuse me of cheating and flirting and all that. And so and at the time, with the glandular fever, and finding out that one of my close family members was suffering from third stage 3 breast cancer, he was pressuring me again. And so all these things were happening in my head, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And I had a flip in my mind, just a flip. My mind said, I can't take this anymore, the weakest link has to go. And the weakest link was the boyfriend. And so it was a flip. And anyway, to cut the story short, I had to, because he wouldn't accept a breakup, and he never, there's just, I had to involve the police. And then one day the police had to come to my house to j- just to have a conversation with me, because I had some kind of a scare kind of incident, because he was banging on the door and whatever. Anyway, the police came into the house. And as soon as they came into the house, get this, right? I was shocked. My jaw dropped to the floor, because they were like identifying things and incidents without even being there. Like, okay, so there was like a wall, and there was like there used to be a hole in the wall, but no more. It was patched up, but the patch was like not the same color. And the police was just like, they curled their fist like this and put it against that patch on the wall. And the police just said, force. One word, force. And then they went to the screen door, and there was a broken latch, and they just said, force. And they had, in like 10 minutes, they've identified several places where force was applied, like, just. And I was living in a hellhole, and I didn't even know it was my own house that I was paying for. And it's because I alienated myself so much. I put this facade of a, I got it all together kind of facade. And I was just so ashamed that I was in that kind of relationship. And yeah, so this is a group where I want you to be the opposite of that. I am here to open up the gates so that we can commune and we can really be vulnerable together and be courageous together and empower one another, because I believe that you don't only break a relationship always has a potential. For as long as there is life, there is hope. And believe me when I say this, like even the worst person in the world, they have hope. They too want the best. I once heard someone say that anything that a person does is either an act of love or a cry for love. So even with your toxic partner, they're either doing an act of love or a cry for love. That's just the truth of it, right? So this is not about breaking any relationships, but this is about breaking the cycle of toxic relationships now. So jump on the Facebook group Breaking the Cycle of Toxic Relationships. 5-day free challenge starts on the 19th of April through to the 23rd of April. And I will see you in that group. Thank you for joining me tonight. For those of you who have been here every Sunday with me, I am honored and I really, really enjoy it. And as you can tell, I kind of like get carried away because I'm really, really passionate about relationships. I believe that it is the fundamental the fundamental reason that we are here is because we want to be connected to one another, but we want to be connected in a healthy way. And to start that is to have a healthy self. So I love you guys. This is the Atomic Self-Love Project. And if you are on the Grace Harris transformation page, I will go in there and post the link to the private Facebook group if you want to join that challenge as well. I will see you again on Sunday next week. And yeah, join the challenge. Bye, everybody.